I guess we need a roll call.
Adair, Crawford, Hamilton,
Present.
Nichols,
Here.
Murrow,
Here.
Cornely.
Here. Item number 3, approval of minutes of the regular meeting held August 23rd, 2021.
I move to approve the minutes of August the 23rd, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Cornely,
Yes.
Murrow.
Yes.
Item number 4, reports from staff, from the inspector.
We've been doing a lot of reviews over some plans for the vanilla bean. We've gotten all those looked at, discussed, and corrected. People's been pulling permits, building, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical permits have all been done properly. We've had a few neighbor disputes that we've taken care of. Had a Wheeler Brothers land plot deal that we kind of sorted out. Other than that, everything else is moving along pretty good. So.
If you guys don't know Adam Grimsley, he is our new code enforcement officer.
Yeah, just started about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So,
Okay.
getting my feet wet. So,
Thank
anything
you.
else?
Do you guys have any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Report from the city council.
So regarding the strategic plan for zoning, Randy Stelling and Angelica and I have met to kind of take the work that the task force had previously been developed, what they'd done up to the point that they quit meeting, to take that and put it into a summary plan. We're looking at city boundaries. We're looking at maybe bringing in some additional areas of town that are outside of town currently for the purpose of them having representation and possible expansion of utilities. We're looking at, with that summary plan, taking the Oklahoma Boulevard corridor and anything within a half block of Oklahoma Boulevard, north or south, that isn't presently zoned commercial general, to change it to commercial general. Anything on the Highway 281 corridors, north and south, same thing. Anything that's residential within a half block of the highway, we would recommend rezoning that to commercial general. We've had quite a bit of discussion about the east side of town with kind of the east of 281. And both north and south of the boulevard. A lot of that is presently zoned agriculture and needs to continue to have an agricultural purpose until there come a time that development would occur. And so what we're looking at there is what's called a PUD, or that stands for Planned Urban Development. So that it would maintain its present use until development were to occur, and then that development would be commercial, so that it it can continue to be agriculture until the purpose changes, and then it would go, or it could continue, I think I said that right, continue to be agriculture until the purpose changes, and then it would be commercial. And that would take in all the development that may occur with the arena out there. And then the RG, the zones for RG8 within, which would be residential properties that require 8,000 square feet. Any of those zones that have less than 8,000 square feet, we would look at rezoning them to RG6. That would allow for building or whatever on those properties. Whereas in an RG8 zone, if it doesn't have 8,000 square feet, then you can't, do any construction or development on those properties. And then we would be recommending that any pocket commercial, what was the old commercial neighborhood? We'd be looking at pulling any commercial neighborhoods out and either rezoning those as commercial or commercial general or as residential. Whatever the size of the lot is would be 6 or 8 or 10, depending on where that might be. So that's the plan. After talking to legal counsel, we're not going to be able to have a property by property, this is everything that is going to be, and that's the zoning all at one time. There's going to be a lot of different properties and notices that have to be sent out in order to accomplish that. So in order to give direction to the Planning Commission, what we're going to ask is that the City Council approve the plan as I explained it to you just now, with some more detail, but it won't be a property by property rezoning as what would have to occur in order to get all of that done, because anything that's going to be rezoned is going to have to have public hearings and all of that in order to accomplish it, and that could take months to get all that accomplished. But we can have a plan that reflects those intentions, which we publicize to the community and use for the basis of consideration for future zoning requests. So that's the direction that the attorney thinks we need to go to stay on the right side of the law, and so that's what we'll be bringing forward. We're pretty close to having that summary document prepared, and the engineers have been sent a map to help us have a visual of how all that's going to look. And so that's about it for now.
Am I understanding that a strategic plan, the general overall plan will come here first and then go on to City Council?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
You guys will get a chance to look at it before it goes on to City Council.
Okay, Kelly, put this in my head. The plan is, on Oklahoma Boulevard, a block or half a block north and south of Oklahoma Boulevard?
Half a block.
Half a block.
Unless it's already zoned commercial outside of that.
So what does that then do to this thing tonight? Is he a half a block off of Oklahoma Boulevard?
He's more than a half a block off. Right now, what's been along the Oklahoma corridor, with the exception of a few pockets, the commercial district goes a half a block. And some of it might be commercial neighborhood, some of it might be commercial general, but more or less, if there's commercial, it's a half a block with a few exceptions. Are there a few exceptions?
There's a few.
There's a few.
There's always exceptions.
And so the plan would be that half a block. That allows the residential areas to still be residential and not have that commercial encroachment, unless it had already been approved. And unless it's a commercial neighborhood, which we may knock that back to residential.
Knock back a commercial neighborhood, unless there's something already commercial in there.
I think a lot of those that are in the residential pockets have all converted back mostly to residential. There's a few that have not, but the majority of them have.
Are back to residential.
Yes.
So that would be the plan that we would submit to you when we submit it, and then for council approval.
Does that mean that where you're building the arena, the rest of that quarter would be deemed industrial and they can't farm it anymore?
No, that's what I was talking about. It's called planned urban development. And so it wouldn't be rezoned until it was sold for a new purpose. So it could continue to do that, but once somebody decides to develop that, it wouldn't be able to be developed residential. It'd have to be developed commercial.
So no residential could go out there then?
If that was what was approved, that would be the case. That would be what would be proposed. The idea is that there will be a lot of interest in commercial development in and around the arena, which would add to the local economy, and pretty significantly if it were all based out in proximity to the arena.
When are they fixing to start on that?
They're still, the last word that I received, and this is not I'm not an expert on that topic, but the last word that I received is they were still trying to satisfy the federal government request for information and in order to get the final stamp of approval on their finance options. They're using USDA for a good portion of funding on the arena. So they won't be able to do anything as far as going out for bids until they've got the USDA to sign up on it. It seems like, to me, it seems like every time they send the USDA what they ask for, the USDA asks for something else.
That's normal.
Any other questions?
When is the task force gonna form again, meet again? Are we done? Are we?
I think that ship sailed. I think we've got enough information to put the plan forward, and the planning commission can hash it out, whatever they think needs to be modified before it goes back to city council. But I think getting everybody back together again might not. I don't know. I'd take a recommendation if you had one. So, but I wasn't thinking we'd get them back together because I think the gist of what was discussed in the task force meetings, I think we're going to accomplish.
Kelly, maybe just as a thank you to the task force, maybe just meet and explain everything, because some of that's their ideas, some of it's yours, and maybe just have us all meet together and just as a way of saying, okay, you guys did your job, now I'm going to show you how it came out on paper. I mean, just as a, make them know that it's over.
A closure thing.
Yeah, just to make sure they know that it's over. Just an idea.
We can do that. I wouldn't count on a quorum, but we can do that.
Yeah, I know.
Because I have a stack
Yeah, I know.
in my office of stuff.
But, and a quorum, because you're not going to vote on anything or do anything, it's just a way to let the public know that the task force did do their job.
Oh, yeah, the task force definitely did their job.
Yeah, and that way it's a closure to all of us.
It was fun, too.
I know.
We'll order pizza. That'll get a better crowd.
Always does, always does.
Anything else? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Item number 5, discussion and action to approve a request to change the zoning from residential RG8 to commercial general CG at 1020 4th Street.
Brian, did Mr. Strider get with you?
Yeah. So the applicant that submitted the request was unable to be here tonight. He met with me prior to, actually emailed me quite a few documents and asked me if I could present these along with the letter, and I told him I would on that. So first I'll start with the letter that he emailed me, kind of read it to you, let you guys understand. He goes, first I'd like to offer my apologies to everyone attending the meeting today for not being able to make a personal appearance. I had a previous engagement that I could not cancel or reschedule. I appreciate your understanding and if the matter was not of the most of urgency, I would have been here today. Again, my apologies. He continues to write, I am writing to ask for your recommendation of approval for the rezoning of my property located at 1024th Street from residential to commercial in order to construct a building 30 by 50 in my backyard for storage of vehicles. My current situation is of a unique condition, whereas the commercial property line meets up with the property line on the north side of my home. All of my property line north to Highway 281 are all zoned commercial, and I'm asking that the commercial property line be extended or a variance be allowed to include my property. He goes on and states that I have further visited with all my neighbors, to which I have obtained their signatures of approval. There is only one that I'm aware of that disapproves of the construction of the building. I see no reason that the construction of the building would cause any unreasonable effects to adjacent properties. I see no reason where it would be depriving any property owner of reasonable use of their properties. The building would not cause any impairment of adequate supply of light to air to adjacent properties, and no unreasonable congestion in the public streets or alleys. It would not increase a public danger of fire or safety or any other impairment of public health, safety, comfort, morals, or welfare to adjacent properties or the city of Alva. The property owner who is against having the building constructed has concerns with view, air, sight, and that if they had wanted commercial property, they would have bought commercial property per the first commission board meeting held back July 26, 2021, and the written letter to the board. This is where I must note that the owner of the property that is objecting does not reside on the property themselves. They use the property for a rental and hardly ever there. I would also like to point out that their property is to the north of my home and is zoned commercial property. So I'm confused as to their objection. The erection of the building and its use will be no different than any of my neighbors who have access to the alley and use to access and enter their homes. Thank you for considering my application for reclassification of my property from residential to commercial, and or a variance if need be to extend the commercial property line one property south to include my property for an erection of a 30 by 50 car storage building. Thank you, Tom Strack. Then he sent me 5 other emails that have photographs, but I think do you guys have the photographs and the signature pages?
Oh, we don't have to see it.
No, we did not have this.
Okay.
It was just-
There is photographs different here. Basically, what he asked me to also point out is he rents several carports to park vehicles under at different properties across town. That would save you money if you didn't have to rent those spaces on it. He shows a picture of his backyard with the pool removed, that he took the pool out. A picture of his front yard, showing how he has to park in his front yard. He took pictures of the carports that he's renting for storage of the vehicles.
And all those cars will fit in this one building?
That's what he's stating, yes. 1,500 square foot. Another picture of a carport that he's renting with a vehicle under it. There was one I didn't get to open here. It's just not downloading. On it, he expressed that he has talked to all of his neighbors. He got signature papers. At the bottom of that letter, the signature papers are attached to it. And
Can we see that?
The signature paper? Yeah. Let me throw it at you. There's two of them there.
Brian, have you, I mean, we've all driven by it now, I'm sure. And they can get this, what was it, 30 by 50 building in his backyard, inside his lot.
I don't know without seeing what a survey of his property is. I can tell you most lots are 50 by 150 or 50 by 100. I think his is 50 by 150 on it. One thing about on these,
One lot or two?
I'm not sure on that, Charles. I would hate to tell you if he's on, I think he's just one. There should be lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, I think. Yeah, Hayla, you're the fourth lot off the highway.
No,
Pardon?
I'm right up against the vanilla bean.
It's the third lot.
Third lot. So he would be the fourth lot.
So he lives on the fourth lot
Yes.
and he wants the fifth lot rezoned.
No, he wants the fourth lot, I believe.
Whatever the
In his backyard.
I think the Vanilla Bean has 3 lots.
Does Vanilla Bean have 3?
I think they have 3.
Okay, and then-
You're the 4, and he would be the 5th, and I think that's why it's written that way. And
Okay,
Lot 2.
so this
Yeah.
is
Lot 5. Yeah, lot 5.
This is lot 2. And this is what we're looking at.
third, fourth, no, it should be. Yeah, it should be, this one, it should be 13.
He's on this side of the street, yeah. Here's the street, he's on this side of the street.
He's on the east side. Oh, yeah, okay. Is that 4th Street?
Yeah.
Or is that 4th Street?
This is 4th Street, I believe. 4th, yes.
Okay, so yeah, it's 13.
4th runs north and south, yeah.
He's on the east side.
Here, turn it this way,
He's on the east side of the street.
because this is
Yes.
Oklahoma. This is 4th. And so this is the lot we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, correct.
Okay.
Lot 4.
Or lot,
Lot 5.
It says lot 5
It
on
says
the
lot
paper.
5.
It'd be lot 5.
It is lot 5. And it's not a whole lot, it's his backyard, isn't it?
because,
Oh, no, he has to, it would have to be the whole lot.
His house and everything. Right, right.
So
My question-
here's what happens, when we rezone residential to commercial, regardless of what the intent is today, it's commercial forever. And so they can do whatever, in the future, somebody could come in and have any kind of business in there they wanted to have in there, because it's already zoned commercial. Doesn't require any change in order to do
go
that.
get the
So-
big map out of your office.
So, that's why I don't like it when people want to rezone for vehicle storage. Because we've had numerous of those requests in the past, but now it's a commercial property, and, when they're dead and gone, whoever buys it next has got a commercial property right there that it may not be as conducive to, a residential area as what
You could put in a beer joint and you never know it.
they could, as long as they, go through the other hoops with it. There wouldn't be that, rezoning, that zoning issue that they'd have to
And
deal
have
with.
parking and everything else.
So, back to what you said earlier, half a block would be lots 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
So we're overstepping what the recommendation is going to be, or the planned recommendation is going to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, and then I'll turn this to you guys so you can see it. So the commercial, see this on this?
Right here.
Yeah,
Dance hall, beer joint, whatever.
Whenever, they can put it
Right
anywhere,
here where my finger is.
anything they want to there.
Property lines, they can go all the way out.
4th Street.
Right here.
So, saying property lines, there's a code that they have to stay within so far
But right now, the property is out of compliance with current code
because of,
because of the building they have on the property line.
And to kind of explain that to you how it is based on the lot coverage. If you are commercial to commercial,
right?
you can build on the property lines. But if you're commercial to residential, you have to be 5 foot off of residential property lines per the zoning lot coverage on it. So to get a 50-foot building in there, you know, and depending on what is lot, it could be 60 by 150, I don't know on it. But to get a 50-foot lot, or a 50-foot building in there, 30 foot wide, you would have to be on the lot line on one side, which you could if it was commercial to commercial, but he would have to be 5 foot off of the south lot line
Right.
to fit it in there. And I'm, like I said, without looking it up on the assessor side to see what his lot is or what his size is.
Probably got to do that one.
Yeah, if you want to, they probably want that information.
And we've had this before us before,
Yes.
and we didn't get, excuse me, we didn't get a motion to move it towards the planning council. So,
It went to council for consideration.
okay,
But it was considered the wrong,
That-
to be rezoned in the wrong kind of commercial zone other than what
So
Mr. Strike
at
was
council,
requesting.
I made the recommendation to Tom, and I told him in the council meeting that night, so we were looking at commercial neighborhood, and basically there is a definition that we found in the zoning book, what commercial neighborhood was deemed used for, and that was for neighborhood grocery stores.
Guys, I need to point out to you, one of the signatures on his list signed it so that he could have a building to store cars in. It did not realize that it was being changed from residential to commercial. She's not in favor of that. She says, oh no, I had no clue that it was going from residential to commercial.
Is she willing to give her name? I mean, I imagine you're gonna want these.
I think my whole question is if it's 30 by 50 building, could you make a smaller building and not make it commercial?
Depends what his lot coverage is right now, his percentages, on it. So when we have to determine what lot coverage is, it is the footprint of your house. It's not the total square foot of your house, it's the footprint plus the eaves. So
Okay.
whatever covers property is considered in your percentage. So you look at that footprint, and then whatever other structure that covers property adds into the total square footage. And so if he's RG8, I believe right now, and if he's, 50 by 150, probably doesn't even have enough property to build. He would have to rezone, for building, but then you get 30% of whatever, 7,500, and gets, 2,500 square foot of coverage, roughly on it.
Lorraine case.
Okay. I didn't look at the,
What is this lot? You looked it up?
I gave it to Brian.
oh, sorry.
I just pulled it up and handed it over to Charles.
but the goal of the task force, as I knew it, was to get consistency within the city and alleviate the pockets of. Okay, so we would, if we recommended this, we would be recommending another pocket. And even if you went half a block, which is the recommendation is gonna be a half a block, it still is over half of that block, right? Okay, that's what.
So again, with commercial general, with any residential property that's inside that commercial zone, when it changes hands or something happens, if it's going to be redeveloped, it would, wait a minute, am I saying that right, Brian? If there's a house in a commercially zoned,
Okay, so commercial general, as long as if the resident's been there, the house has been there, and it's been established, it can stay there and be in a CG.
but if
But to
somebody
take a
couldn't tear
residential-
down a house and build another house.
You couldn't build
So he would still be in
It's not on here, but it's just one lot, it's just lot five.
That's what I thought, so we could do the 150.
But I'm
So his lot's not big enough to build that building anyway, you say, or you don't have to get it?
not as it's zoned right now as RG8, because one, he doesn't have enough property, and then two, his lot coverage is too great.
And so if we change it to the other commercial, general commercial, he would have enough room? Does he be able to go
Then you don't have lot percentage of coverage.
coverage, because he'd go all the way to the border, all the way to the
Right.
edge of the.
So you don't have your setbacks. Commercial, it gets to be in depending on the usage. I mean, there's a few ways that you have to have separation, depending on building size.
And his usage is only to store, not to repair, have a shop.
Yes, that's all, that's in his letter, that's all he's doing is going to store vehicles.
We can't really control that once it's
in there.
Kind of had that problem on Olive Street when we let him build that metal building for storage. Now, he could make that a shop to work out of, and we let him pass.
No, you didn't rezone that commercial.
No, but it was the same thing. I mean, he was building it for storage, but there's nothing to say he can't go in there and build rafters and make a shop out of it.
He would be in violation of the ordinance
Yeah.
to do that.
But it's still
If-
residential because
if-
he's putting a living quarters in there.
Supposedly, yeah.
If, the difference is, it's zoned residential, to operate a business out of the residential would be against the ordinance. To rezone something commercial, it wouldn't be against code of ordinances to operate a business.
Do we have a protest here that would like to speak?
We do. So my property, it goes the Vanilla Bean, my property, and then the property that's in question. So if I am the only person protesting, which now I'm not, but if I was, I'm the only person whose property he's going to be able to butt right up against because mine is zone commercial. It's not used in a commercial capacity, but I am the one property that he would be able to butt right up against our property line all the way down. That the size of that would be massive on that lot, on the lot size. If you haven't driven by there, that alley is a very narrow alley. That is the alley that a lot of people use to get into their property, and any sort of congestion in that area would make that even more of a problem. It's already been said, but I just want to reinforce the fact that he can put it in for whatever he wants. If they sell that property 30 days after they do whatever, that can turn into any other commercial endeavor that they want. There's no stopping that. And so that's scary for me because I don't know what'll be next to my property. Yes, I use it as a rental property, but it stays residential. It is not a commercial property, even though I'm up against commercial. I would not want to get in a situation where the committee is going to start moving towards not allowing these random commercial areas right in the middle of residential. If people want to do commercial endeavors, there are plenty of commercial properties available. He's already got some where he's keeping cars. The fact that it would lessen his cost, I don't think is the burden of other people in a residential area. I think if you want to take on endeavors that are going to need commercial property, then commercial property is what you ought to seek out. It's just scary for me as a property owner to think that who knows what can go in there next. And who knows if what is being proposed will be the thing that go, we have no control over that. So those things are just scary for me as a property owner. Yes, I do want to be able to have some space out there and see out when I rent that property or anything I do. Nobody wants a property right up on their property line, and it will literally be right up on us, and those lots are not that big. So I just think those are my concerns, and I would not be in favor of this. And like I said, I'm the one property that he will be able to go right up against the whole property. And it's scary for me what it could turn into after the fact. I just don't know that we have any guarantee on anything, and they could sell it a year later, and who knows what happens then. We have no control over that. And as has been said many times, the commission is leaning toward not doing this anyway. So I just can't imagine that when we know that's the goal, we would go ahead and kind of backtrack and allow that. Are there any questions for me about my property or anything?
You rent your property out.
Yes.
As a landlord, will it be harder to rent it if there's a building right next to you?
For me personally, I want to be able to go out and enjoy my yard and the things that go on in my yard. And I just feel like property value in general goes down when you have a commercial property butted right up against you like that. For me, I'm going to look for a place that's not congested like that if I'm renting. It might not matter to some, but for me it would matter. I wouldn't want some endeavor like that right up on my property, whether I'm renting that property and planning to stay there. Most of the renters we put in there stay long term. Most of our renters do, and so I wouldn't want to live next to that.
I think that was my point, was property value.
Mm-hmm.
What will that do to the value of all the other, if there's a great big huge building out there? Or will it not matter?
Depends on what kind of business, I guess. I mean, if people are looking to purchase residential property, what are they looking for in residential property?
And he already stated that he has commercial properties where he's keeping his other cars. So the properties are out there, and there are commercial properties available if you look around town. So if you want to do commercial endeavors, I think you ought to have to look in commercial areas, not just be able to come down and request a change and then, manipulate the use of your property, especially when it's going to be right up on the property line of someone else. It'd be different if it wasn't going to butt right up to a house, but it is.
Can he move that to the south side of the lot and give her space on the north side?
Right, I mean, once again, I'm not knowing, and I've looked at the property and the coverage, but like,
He's not presented any plans.
yeah, he says a 30 by 50, so that's what I gotta go off of on it. So if his lot's 50 foot wide,
So it could be 30 foot long.
it could be 30 foot long, and he could set it in there.
But the same problem still comes up, whether which side of property he puts it on. Who knows what its purpose will be later on down the road? And do we want those properties coming up just in the middle of residential areas? So no matter which side of the property he puts it on, that doesn't control its future use.
I mean, he could, and I think what Charles is saying, Halo, like if that 30 foot wide, if he set it in the middle of his property, it'd be 50
I get it,
foot
that it
on
wouldn't
each
be
side.
butting up against it anymore, but that still doesn't change the fact that that building can be used for anything in the future. So it doesn't matter where it is on that lot, it can still be who knows what 1 year from now.
My other question is if it's a business and he goes in there with, he repairs cars, the noise level in a residential area, haven't we had that problem already?
I think he told me he quit working on cars, he's just rebuilding hot rods right now, and he uses that down there to where his shop is now. Because he doesn't work on people's cars now.
He's working on somebody's car
He just rebuilding.
for
It
somebody
may be
else.
his cars, but he's rebuilding.
I don't-
He's in the old vendor building.
Right, I drove by and saw it, and it's full, it's,
Yeah, he does
It's all
high-end
outside.
car work type
Yeah.
stuff.
he's got a lot of stuff setting outside.
If we already know the goal is going to be to go a half block and it's already past that, and we know that's what they're going to propose for approval soon, we would already be,
Freaking out.
going against what we think the proposal is going to be.
I would ask that you guys give us a recommendation one way or the other to Planning Commission, or from Planning Commission to City Council.
Thanks a lot.
Do I have a motion then?
I make a motion, we allow it.
Do I have a second? There being none,
Is there another motion?
is there another
I'll
motion?
make a motion to deny it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, I guess.
Go ahead, Shelley.
Nichols,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes?
Murrow,
No.
Cornely.
Yes.
And this just goes to city council now. So the final decision hasn't been made until city council votes on it?
Actually, when it's a no from you, there's no change. So there's no change if I'm understanding correctly.
It doesn't go anywhere. That's my understanding as well, but we'll
He can
verify with
appeal it.
legal counsel.
Is there any way for him to build residential? I mean, can we do a variance and allow a garage on residential? I mean, my hang-up is switching it to commercial.
Me too.
That would be a Board of Adjustments variance request that would not come back to this
Okay.
commission.
Be a different.
But that's a possibility for him.
Yes.
And that's a good idea. Just build a garage.
The Board of Adjustments decisions are final. Those don't even go to city council. So the Board of Adjustments, if he were to go that route, he could request a variance to the zoning for the construction of a building. And that, if that were approved, that doesn't change the property to commercial. It just changes the lot coverage requirement for that lot.
Okay.
But that'd be another board.
Item number 6, remarks and inquiries by planning commission members. Item number 7, remarks and inquiries by citizens. Item 8, adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
A second.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate your service. Thank you all.